Hi, I'm James Hamilton from Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal, and we just finished some beautiful walnut countertops. Not only do I think they look great, but they're durable and affordable if you make them yourself. This is the first in a series of videos that will show you some of the challenges we faced and how we overcame them. I think you'll find these interesting, even if you aren't ready to tackle this sort of project yourself. This time we'll talk about how to make a template and fit a countertop into even a very difficult space like this one. This isn't typical of what you may build, but by showing you this worst case scenario, you'll learn how to overcome the challenges your project may throw at you, including walls that aren't straight, corners that aren't square, and cutouts that have to be positioned just right for everything to fit. It starts with a template. Pete's cutting strips of 1/2-inch plywood to length and fitting them along the walls. The pieces butt up against each other and are connected by smaller scraps nailed to the top. Notice how a long piece runs across the back wall, then a small piece runs from the corner up that short section of wall to the next turn. It's just a matter of building the template one piece at a time. These angles are rarely 90 degrees. To ensure they're correct, the connector blocks can first be attached with just 2 nails. Then the frame is put back in place so the angle can be adjusted. After that's adjusted, it's secured with more nails. However, those nails aren't enough to keep that angle from changing as this template is jostled around. So a corner brace is added to stiffen the frame. Continue the same process working your way around each corner. Don't forget to account for the overhang on the front edge of the countertop. Here Pete measures 1.5 inches before nailing the next strip in place. This countertop extends past the cabinets in 2 places. The left side passes through a wall opening to form a small bar and a dining area. It also extends off the side of the base cabinets to cover a wastebasket. It's areas like this that create the odd shape and unique challenges of this particular countertop. Don't worry about letting some pieces stick into the middle of the overall frame either. In fact, this may be necessary to provide a place to attach more cross pieces to keep the corners stiff. All that matters is the outside shape, not how many pieces it took you to get there. Here we're adding some more larger cross supports. Remember, this thing will be handled and moved around, maybe even hung on a wall or leaned up against something while it's waited to be used. It has to be sturdy. It can't rack or change shape. It may not look pretty, but this is all we need to fit a countertop into this tricky space. Because the space is so tricky, we moved the template in and out of position a couple of times, trimming anywhere it seemed too tight. Remember, the countertop will be much thicker. If the template is too difficult to tip and slide back in place, we'll never get the thick counter in. Believe it or not, we don't need perfection. The template is intended to give us the basic shape, size, and angles. Pete will take that back to the shop and use it to transfer that shape to the walnut slab. Then he'll cut any long straight edges with a circular saw and use a jigsaw to cut out the rest. Now I know what some of you are asking. Isn't a jigsaw a crude way to cut this thing out? Why not use a router with a flush trim bit on top of the template so that the countertop will match it as perfectly as possible? Well, you couldn't do that with a template like this, because those cross pieces and connector blocks will get in the way of the router's base. You could trace the template onto a piece of MDF, then carefully cut that out with the saw, sand the edges nice and smooth, check the fit on the job site, make your adjustments to produce a perfect template that could then be used to cut a perfectly shaped countertop with a router and a flush trim bit, but all that work's not really needed. For one thing, I don't want this countertop to be absolutely tight in all these corners. It's wood. It will expand and contract with humidity. And I have some room for air because there will be backsplashes covering some of the gaps against the walls. In fact, when we did get the countertop cut out, it fit too perfectly. In order to tilt it down into place, we had to bevel the edges on the underside in certain places. Other places had to be shaped on site to better match the contours of the walls. A good coarse carbide sanding block or some of these carbide sanding plates make quick work of that kind of work. I'll put a link to these essential tools in the notes below this video. My point is, if you're unlucky enough to have a countertop this oddly shaped, be prepared to make some adjustments on the fly no matter how carefully you built your template. In the end, this fit was nearly perfect. The only notable flaws were problems with the drywall not being flat, but that's easily fixed with a few layers of drywall mud to taper out the wall just above the countertop and bring it out covering the gap. In future videos, we'll talk about some of the other challenges you may face in making wooden countertops, including how to make perfect miter seams and how to apply a beautiful and durable finish. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.